Once there was a prince who woke up one morning and declared that he was a rooster. And with that, he decided to behave exactly like these birds would. He took off his royal clothes and he crawled under a table where he refused to eat any food except for scraps and seeds, which he would peck at on the floor just like a rooster. Days and months passed, and the king and queen were becoming nervous. They had hoped that this was just a phase, but they realized that their son truly believed that he was a rooster. So they did everything in their power to try and help the situation. They enlisted help from all sorts of people in the community, doctors and teachers. They tried to use logic and compassionate words to try to lure him out from under the table. One of his friends came over to try and get him to play soccer, and the royal chef even created his favorite cake. But the prince's only response was to stare and cluck at them just like a rooster. Word spread all over town about the prince who thought he was a rooster. And one day, a wise young woman came to the palace. She told the king and queen that she could help their son. Although they were skeptical, they had already tried everything else, so they figured they had nothing left to lose. She asked them to give her a couple of weeks and to have patience, and so she went into the prince's room. When she entered the room, she took off her very fancy coat, and she got down on the ground, where she too began pecking at the seeds and the scraps on the floor. "Who are you and why are you here?" the prince asked. "I'm a rooster, just like you." He smiled, and the two of them started clucking and pecking at the seeds together. A friendship was forming. After a few days of pecking at the seeds and clucking away, when the daily breakfast was delivered on a tray, which usually didn't get touched, the woman got up from under the table and she went to the table to retrieve it. She brought it back under the table, and she started to eat it. "What are you doing?" said the prince. "Roosters eat seeds, not toast and coffee. That is people food, and you are a rooster. Put it back." But the woman replied, "I am a rooster, just like you, but roosters are allowed to choose to eat whatever food they want. If you prefer to eat birdseed, by all means, enjoy. I, however, am going to eat this food because I like the taste better. And from now on, I'm going to eat whatever food is brought in on the tray." The prince thought about what she had said, and he looked intrigued. He brought his tray under the table, too. So they ate their breakfast together, and then they continued to cluck away as they normally did. But every time meals were brought to them and delivered on a tray, they would bring it and share it under the table. The same routine happened for the next few days, until one morning, instead of bringing her food under the table, the woman sat in a chair and she ate her breakfast with a fork and a knife. "What are you doing?" said the prince. "Aren't you a rooster? Roosters don't sit on chairs, and they certainly don't use silverware." "I am a rooster," she replied, "but my back is hurting me from being on the floor. I can still be a rooster and sit at the table. And silverware doesn't make me any less of a rooster. It's just easier to eat food this way. You can do it too if you want." The prince thought for a minute, and then he decided to join her at the table. After they ate, they again went back to their clucking, and this routine continued for another few days. One afternoon, the woman started washing her hands and her face, and she put her fancy coat back on. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Roosters don't clean themselves, and they don't wear fancy clothes like that." "This evening is Shabbat," she said. "I am a rooster who loves Shabbat. I want to make myself look presentable. As a rooster, I want to have Shabbat with your family. I want to have dinner, and I want to pray and sing. Do you want to join me? It won't make you any less of a rooster." The prince thought long and hard. It's been so long since I've been with my family. I'm not sure they're going to accept me back, especially seeing that I'm still a rooster. She responded to him, Your family will welcome you back with open arms, and they will accept you for who you are. They'll be excited to celebrate with us." And then the prince started to get ready for Shabbat too. When the woman and the prince showed up at the Shabbat dinner table, the king and the queen were in awe. Their son hadn't joined them for a meal in months. They couldn't believe their eyes, and their son went over to hug them hello. The prince spoke to their parents. "I am still a rooster, but as a rooster, I am choosing to celebrate Shabbat with you this evening." And as a family, they ate their meal together, talking about non-rooster things. And when they were finished, they all joined together in prayer and song. The queen was so happy. She turned to the woman and said, "How did you do this? This is so remarkable." And the woman explained that all human beings have the ability to make choices. The prince believes he is a rooster, but even a rooster can choose to behave like a human. The prince rejoined society, going to school and playing with his friends, but he was always a rooster on the inside, and he made sure to remind everyone about it every once in a while. The king and queen learned a valuable lesson as well. From then on, they began to rule their country in a different way. Instead of insisting on subjects coming to the palace, they went out to meet them at their homes so that they could try and understand the problems and their needs on a more personal level. And whenever they heard a rooster crow in the distance, they gave thanks to God and to the young woman who taught them a very powerful lesson.